The river is long, but I'm owning the shore. I'm more than I lost, and I'm finding much more, surviving the crocodiles, one morning at a time.
Okay, folks, let's take a few steps back pre-surgery. Um, and I want us to talk about three things: preparation, anticipation, and procrastination. um, what I would say is they might not come in that order, but I just want to talk about how I navigated life before the surgery or decisions before the surgery. And let's unpack this a little bit and have a conversation around it, because I want us to think about maybe you're in that space right now where you are trying to figure out what now, um, and you're facing the reality that this could be your future, and you need to make some decisions. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I did, and I'm hoping that in honestly revealing this to you all, my foolishness may be a little bit of my pain and struggle, that you'll be better equipped to make decisions that will serve you better. So I want to talk about when I was diagnosed. So 2 years ago, I went to the gynecologist after many, many years of not seeing a gynecologist. And first of all, not advised. Do your yearly checkups, your annual checkups. Make sure you're okay. As they tell us, I don't know what it is that those of us who have this strange fear of medical professionals, not because they're medical professionals, but because you fear getting bad news about your body or your condition. Don't do that. Just do your annual checkups. Anyway, so I did, and I discovered that I had several issues going on. First of all, I had polycystic ovarian syndrome. And in my particular situation, my ovaries are enlarged, and there are a couple of hormonal imbalances. And then I also was told that I have endometriosis, which is quite advanced. I sort of had a hunch or a suspicion that this would be the case, because for years since my first period, I've had a lot of pain, period pains. So having done my own research for a couple of years, I assumed there might be some sort of endometriosis. And then lastly, that I had uterine fibroids, but not just any old uterine fibroids, massive, several of them. And I was advised by my gynecologist that I should get them removed immediately. But he also told me that if I do get them removed, there's a tendency of them growing back, and you'll have a lifelong journey with surgery. As they come back, you'll have to remove them. And this is what you'd have to do if you wanted to save your uterus. Then after receiving this news, I mean, this was coupled with several other things about an inverted uterus, enlarged uterus, and all sorts of things that made me realize that there was serious there were serious problems and I'd neglected my body for a long time. So I think I would say I probably went into a period of denial and a period in which I refused to accept the seriousness of the condition. And I decided that I would try and find a way through homeotherapy and natural means to improve the situation. So I went to the homeopath and we said, okay, we'll focus on the hormone imbalances, and we'll see what we can do in terms of natural hormone therapy. I'll go to the gym, get my body healthier. I'll eat better. I'll control my stress. I'll sleep better. I'll cut out stimulants from my diet, clean up my diet, and all of that. And in my mind, this would reverse all these damages. So for 2 years, I looked at alternatives, sort of bargaining with my body to say, listen, I know I've been neglecting you for many years. I know I have internalized a lot of the trauma of my childhood and I have burdened you without release. But look, now I'm trying my best and please respond. And needless to say, for these 2 years, I was hoping for the best. And what I did tend to notice was I was feeling amazing. I won't lie to you. But in terms of the issue, I was getting worse. The pain, my period pains were getting worse. The bleeding was getting much worse. The fatigue was getting worse. And I had issues in terms of a lot more adverse symptoms, peri menstrual cycle and post-menstrual cycle. So what people would call PMS was just getting worse. And I reached a stage where I realized that I need to seek a second opinion. And I think that was just, I don't know. To be honest, I actually don't know why I wanted to seek a second opinion. My body was already telling me that what I was told the first time must be true. But somehow, I don't know, I needed another medical professional to push my mind out of denial. So I went and got a referral to someone that had more acronyms after his name than I've ever consulted with in the medical field, who told me that it was so severe that he couldn't save my uterus and that if they were to try and reconstruct it, I would have a very poor quality of life. And that even in trying to reconstruct it, it might not be healthy enough to bear children. And that was as stark a reality as I had to face in that moment. And I realized I've been procrastinating for 2 years for something that, had I made the decision and followed the advice 2 years ago, I would have been in a different situation. But I do want to come back to this thought at some point, because I also don't want us to get caught up in the what ifs and the coulda, wouldas. So how do we build a bridge between procrastination and preparation? And that's what I did. After I received the second opinion, I sort of buckled down and I honed in on the information and I made a decision. And I said, this cannot continue like this. I want a better quality of life and I need to let go of the dream. You all know the dream that I'm talking about if you've listened to episode 1. And it was so hard. But once I exhaled and released that dream, I could get into preparation mode. And I started to do what was necessary to get myself ready for the surgery. I went back to my doctor and I reconsulted. He was very surprised to see me after 2 years and was wondering what had happened to me. And he confirmed that things were much worse and that he would not be able to save my uterus and that a major hysterectomy was what was in order, but he could save my ovaries. And I was very happy for that because it meant that I wouldn't have to do hormone therapy following the surgery. And I sort of zoned in to deal with some of the expectations following the surgery, pre-surgery, and also mentally how to prepare. And I realized that all the hopes and dreams that I had, releasing them was not giving up. It was just accepting my fate to say, this is what it is. This is what my life truly is, not what I want it to be, but what it truly is. And what does that mean and how do I navigate that? So one of the biggest things that I needed to do was to mourn the death of the dream, to grieve. I did a lot of grieving to the extent that I did a voice note to my unborn children. And I know this may sound extreme to some people, but essentially what I want to really encourage you to do is to physically release that grief prior to the surgery, especially if you're someone who had that desire in your heart to bear your own children, because it really will hamper your body's ability to heal itself after the surgery if you hold on to emotions that can become toxic. So some of the things that I looked at in terms of preparation were physical preparation. The first thing I want to say is it's completely valid to mourn the life you envisaged while you take care of your body. Remember, being sad is a natural response to loss. So that is why I keep going back to the fact that you need to express and feel and go through the emotion of grief, but get to a point where it's not pulling you under. So I just felt it was very important to prepare for the hysterectomy. It's a major medical step. So the physical preparation looked at my home-based setup, because then I looked at what are some of the things that are going to be post-surgery concerns, like you can't lift heavy things, the medications that you'll need in terms of your diet, what snacks and things you'll need to buy to make yourself comfortable at home. Remember, you will not be able to do any of this post-surgery. For at least 2 weeks, you'll be homebound where you cannot even drive. So I decided, okay, let me make sure my home base is set up. I won't be able to lift heavy things. I won't be able to bend and so forth. So setting up my room in such a way that I wouldn't need, things could be at a height where I didn't need to bend. All the things that I use on a daily basis or my comfort items would be reachable. Then meal prep. So meal prep was not a huge thing for me, but I do advise it. For me, as I've said before in episode 1, my parents are living with me. So I have my mom who prepares the meals for me, but I also thought preparing menus in advance to say, okay, what do I need in terms of my diet to just help her in terms of coming up with the different meals that I would need and the preparation thereof. Clothing was a big one. So you have your regular clothing, but one thing that is important to note, depending on the type of surgery that you're having, is the clothes that you're going to wear after the surgery and making sure that they're comfortable, especially around the abdomen area, depending on whether they'll do a cesarean cut or a laparoscopic procedure. I had the laparoscopic surgery, meaning I had several stitches where the incisions were made to put in those arms. I call them Edward Scissorhands, even though if it was Edward Scissorhands, my surgery would have been more gruesome. But you know what I mean. Um, but I then made sure that I had loose-fitting dresses, that I wouldn't have any elastic band or waistband around my waist or abdomen area following the surgery, and also comfortable underwear, especially cotton, so that it would be breathable. Because after the surgery, you get a catheter put in as well. So you want something breathable and comfortable for after that is removed. And then I just focused on making sure that I was healing most of my healthy habits as more aggressively than before in the 3 months or so prior to the surgery. So I had a personal trainer. We were doing a lot of fitness, muscle building, and fitness preparation. And I made sure that I was getting enough protein in, enough sleep in, and so forth, so that my body was in the best shape. And when I say shape, I don't mean it in terms of aesthetically, just best shape in terms of health wise. The cells have enough oxygen. I have enough body muscle mass. I have enough protein for healing, and that my body is relaxed. So that was in terms of physical preparation. I don't know if there's anything that I could say above and beyond that. You know yourself, you know what you'll need post operation. So make sure those things are in place before the operation. Start gathering all of what you'll need, because believe me, as strong as you may think you are, that surgery takes you out. And there will not be much that you'll be able to do. And I also advise for those of you that are living on your own to get someone to help you, whether it's friends or family. At least for the first 2 weeks, you're going to need help. I don't know how you're going to be able to do this, but as far as it is possible, get someone to help you, even if it's someone who can come in once every other day to help you in terms of, I needed help with things as simple as getting cream on my legs and my feet, and help with going up and down the stairs to fetch things for me because I couldn't go up and down my stairs. I'm living in a duplex. So get help if you can. And then the emotional resilience I spoke about first, you need to do some sort of grief ritual. And I told you about the voice note that I recorded for my unborn children. It could be a letter, it could be a journal, it could be a trip somewhere where you can have space and time to reflect and release some of these aspects that you're sad and grieving about in terms of what you expected in your life. before the surgery. And it made the world of difference in preparation for the surgery. I think I had the greatest release 3 days before my surgery, where I had thought I had done all of this and that I was okay and that I'm prepared, that I really, really mourned. And I cried so much that I was weak. And on the day of the surgery, I was so much stronger to face the surgery. I also think it's important as part of your emotional resilience is to identify your village. Especially, I mean, I'm assuming who I'm trying to relate to are people who are in a similar situation like me, who are unmarried. And most of us are sort of, corporate people, uh, workaholics or recovering workaholics in my case. Um, you want to surround yourself with people, friends, family members, whoever who can check up on you, that you're not isolated. For me, it was very important to have that pre-surgery that could go with me to the hospital and be with me before the surgery and be with me post-surgery as I was being wheeled out of the surgery, and be with me the couple of days in hospital. That was very important to me, and it really, really helped me with recovery. If that's too much for you and you're someone who likes to grieve alone, be careful of isolation. The deeper you go into those feelings, the harder it will be to emerge without people. So find your village, whether it's one or two people that you can lean on, tell them what's happening and bring them on board and let them help you through this journey. And if you struggle with that, then see if you can get some professional support as well. And then your hospital checklist. So I'm a pedantic person. I hate inconvenience. So I did this checklist maybe 2 weeks before the surgery because I just wanted to make sure, do I have these things? Do I have to buy any additional things so that when I'm in hospital, I'm not inconvenienced? So things like an extra long cable, a 2-pin plug, a charger adapter that could take more than one cable, shoes that I could slip my feet into that I didn't have to bend to put on. For me, it was important to have flip-flops to wear in the shower, in the ward. But if you're not that kind of person with that kind of OCD and problems with germs in your mind, then, whatever it is, just to think about what you'll need. Things I didn't put on my list that that I'd forgotten, but because I had my support village with me, they could bring for me afterwards, was an additional pillow. That wasn't provided by the hospital, but maybe I could have asked the hospital for additional pillow and blankets, because the air cons in hospitals, I love a cool space like any other person, but best believe hospitals are cold places and they keep it cold to prevent bacteria and germs. And so I needed an extra pillow and I needed an extra blanket or two. So light blanket, something like a fleecy blanket or shawl. And I had packed in socks because in my mind I thought, that's the one part of my body that gets cold very easily. But if my feet are warm, then I'm warm. So socks was another aspect, and making sure there's enough underwear. In the research that I did and speaking to friends that had gone through similar surgery, they had said that they had a lot of discharge or bleeding, vaginal bleeding. So I took pads, various size pads, and many changes of underwear, because I assumed that I would want to feel comfortable if there was, a large amount of discharge that I could then change. And needless to say, I didn't need any of it because of my laparoscopy procedure. And there was a bag that was attached to an incision on my abdomen that also allowed for the discharge to then flow into that bag. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I'm sure someone will remember the name of that thing, which meant that I didn't need, and I didn't need that because I didn't have any discharge. Well, very minimal. So panty liners was enough for me. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to think about, but I would say make sure that you're prepared. You will never be prepared enough, but you'll be prepared to the extent that it will give you peace of mind. And after you've prepared as much as you think you have, and it's enough, let it go and just wait and be at peace. It's hard, but you do reach that point, and I hope you do before your surgery. Thank you once again for listening, and all the best.